Yes, I think it was a culmination of negative news coming out, first from the SEC, sort of putting a question mark on risk management procedures and really the asset side of the balance sheet. And then we had news yesterday from a large strategic shareholder basically declining new fund injection, and that sort of accelerated worries on potential funding sources going forward. And then we had the regional banking crisis spilling over into the European market. And that's really a liquidity issue which then sort of took hold of also Credit Suisse. And as we saw yesterday, was a big spike in risk premia on the equity side, CDS, but also on the liquid bond market. And I imagine there was tremendous pressure on the deposit side yesterday, with clients sort of shoveling off deposit off the balance sheet of Credit Suisse and people starting to ring fence their exposure. And that can put even a very decent liquidity profile such as Credit Suisse has into troubles. And I think the reaction from the S&B is very warranted at this point to provide a lifeline.
As you look at this organisation, what do you think it needs to do to stave off any further concerns through this cycle?
Well, it's difficult if there are sort of exogenous factors such as the spillover from a regional banking crisis. And then once you're in a restructuring phase and still struggle with profitability, I mean, that you're just vulnerable at these times, right? And so I think the assurance of depositors is a very important step at this point, and I think the S&B has done the right thing here to provide liquidity. And just to remind ourselves, I think it's not about the capital quota. So Tier 1 looks actually fine as of end of last year. So does the liquidity profile on the asset side. But with this additional liquidity, I think it's the right thing to assure depositors that it's a sound bank to do business with.
So from an investment perspective, how do you feel about owning Credit Suisse? Well, let me ask you, do you own Credit Suisse, and do you intend to own Credit Suisse and other banks going forward, considering what we've just seen?
Yeah, so we're at Bellecapital. We're invested in European banks. We're not invested in Credit Suisse, particularly in our investment strategies. And when we look at the European banks, I think there the issues are much less pronounced. We're really coming out of a 10-year restructuring cycle, dealing with toxic assets on the asset side. So those balance sheets look rather clean. They have been benefiting strongly from the interest rate cycle. So there actually we have seen rather positive trajectory.